As I have mentioned before, my youngest son, Jack, is on the autism spectrum. And what that meant, among other things, is that early in his life, there was a lot of testing to find out just how on the spectrum he was exactly. And always these tests were conducted by very well-meaning people who wanted to help him, wanted to help us. And I remember the first time I watched one of these tests, he was four and a half. And we were in this big room that the Seattle Public Schools had set up. And the woman was administering these tests to him with my wife sort of sitting by watching. And she had him do a bunch of things. She was trying to get him to do a bunch of things. And she said to him, "Okay, Jack, walk to me." And he kind of walked over to her. And she then said, "Okay, walk backward." And he just started walking in a circle. And she wrote something down on her little clipboard. And my wife was watching this. She said, "Oh, he can walk backward. He's walked backward many times." And the woman said, "Well, but he didn't when I asked him to." And watching this, I thought, well, who cares? Who cares? What are we measuring here? Are we measuring whether he can walk backward or whether he does something when we ask him to? Because what if he doesn't want to? And what if he doesn't understand why he should want to do something just because somebody asked him? It stayed on my mind as I would watch him get tested by the University of Washington Autism Center. We were really with the big guns now. And I was behind this one-way mirror watching this woman, again, very well-intentioned woman, administer these tests. And she had these little puzzles and she asked him questions about math and about about how people behave and could he do put these puzzles together. He was at this point 7 or 8. And she would ask these questions. And I knew about Jack. He was very internal, and his challenge had to do with listening in a lot of ways. Like he would just go away and just wouldn't pay attention to you. And then he would come forward, and then he'd go away, and then he'd come forward. It was very sort of maddening in a way. But as I watched him, and I knew him well, and I watched her ask the questions, and I watched him not paying attention to her, not answering the questions, but not even really listening to the questions, I didn't think, based on his behavior. And every time she would ask a question and he wouldn't answer, she would then write something down on her clipboard. And I thought, what are you measuring? What good is a test if the person you're administering it to isn't actually taking the test? What is being measured in this? He doesn't care about the test. He doesn't know why he should care about the test. I tried explaining, but he didn't care. And so all we're measuring is unwillingness to participate in this activity. So what does this have to do with writers? Because as soon as I saw him do that, something hit me about my own life. And I was someone who, if you gave me a test, I was going to try and pass it. I just had to. I had to because I didn't want anyone to say I had failed at something they wanted me to do. If there was a hoop, I was going to jump through it. So I thought for many years, for most of my life, I thought if I just jump through enough hoops, I'll find success. But that's really not the way it works. And I've come to understand about achievement, about successful doing things successfully are often a measure of our interest in the thing we're doing. And nothing has taught me this like writing. Like all my skill in the world is useless to me if I'm not interested in the subject I'm writing about. In fact, I remember I was writing an essay for a parenting magazine, and the essay was divided in two. The first part of the essay was about how I had two kids, one on the spectrum, one not. And it was a sort of almost intellectual decision, but it worked. I described how different they each were. One went to school in this way, one was homeschooled. One talked this way, one talked that way. So I broke down all their differences. And then the second half of the essay was about how I just parented them the same, which is paid attention to them in the moment and did what was necessary in the moment. And I sent it to the editor and they sent back, and there were all these kind of mistakes in the first half of the essay and not in the second half of the essay. I mean, there were grammatical mistakes or misspellings in the first, but also just the wording was a little clunky and the editor was going through and making all these changes. She hardly touched the second half of the essay. Why was that? Because I wasn't really interested in the first half. I was just trying to get it done so I could get to the part that really interested me, which was how you parent by being present. And I could not help but notice that the writing got better once I got really interested in the subject matter. Everything you do is a measure of your interest in what you're doing. not how good you are, not how smart you are, not how clever you are. No, it's your interest. And if you're not interested, it's going to be really hard to do it well. So the best thing you can always ask yourself, no matter what you're doing, whether you're writing or knitting or having a conversation, is what interests me? What do I care about? What do I actually care about in this life? Because it's going to be over eventually. You get to live this and then it's over. So what are you actually interested in? What do you care about? What lights up for you? It's worth asking, not what will be successful, not what will sell, but what do you care about? Really, what excites you? And it will change. It will change. I have to keep asking that. I have to keep asking that. I'll be writing some pieces sometimes and I'll think to myself, are you even interested in this anymore? And sometimes the answer is no. I used to be, but I'm not anymore. So I got to say to myself, well, what would interest me? It's a good question. It's a good question. Never stop asking it. What do I actually care about? Regardless of whether it would sell, regardless of whether anybody else is interested. What do I care about? Yeah. Thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in. As always, and if you don't want to miss one of these things, click subscribe. Tell me what you're interested in, I guess, or why it interests you. That is interesting to me, what people are interested in. It's true. It's true. So if you like these videos, say you like it if those are one of the things you're interested in. Yes, indeed. Okay. So until next week, this is Bill Kenower. Stay fearless.